Welcome to Perma-Chink Systems webinar on log home inspection. My name is Kathy and I will be presenting your webinar today. One key for keeping your log home in tip-top condition is to take an hour or so, a couple times a year, to inspect the exterior of your log home for any signs of potential problems. Remember that a bit of maintenance and a small inexpensive repair now can prevent expensive repairs later down the line. So what we're going to do now is just start your inspection. Make a diagram of your home. Now this is a simple diagram, each wall individually on pages, so you can mark where the windows and doors are, and you can mark and note areas that you want to inspect up close. Use a checklist. We all forget things what to look for, especially when we're in the middle of the inspection. You can find a checklist on Perma-Chink.com. And if you go into the how-to guides, and it'll be right there, you can print it out. Then you're going to take a picture of the problem areas, and actually I recommend you take a picture of the whole wall. That way you have year to year a picture of that wall, and maybe you didn't notice some changes, but from year to year you can have that photograph and you'll notice the changes and look into it more closely. So the simple tools you're going to need for any inspection is a camera, a spray bottle with water, masking tape, small hammer, thin blade screwdriver. So what we're going to do is we're going to stand back and look at the overall wall. At first, what we're going to notice is the landscaping. Now, has the shrubbery or the landscaping grown up and over and is now rubbing against the logs? Has that tree that you swore was only going to be like 10 feet high, a dwarf tree, is now 15 to 20 feet tall and now rubbing against the house and also on top of the roof. This actually can allow rodents and other bugs and molds, mildews, everything to get against the log wall. You definitely want to keep that away. If it's not possible to trim it back, you may have to move it to another area of your backyard. The other thing you want to watch for is your landscaping and shrubbery that you planted fairly close to the house, not realizing it was going to get so large that it would rub against the house. You're going to need to trim that back so you have an area airflow and that you can walk around the house. What we're seeing now is in new construction and restoration is a gravel path, nothing biodegradable that can hold moisture and funguses and bugs and stuff against the house. So use a gravel path. That's great for drainage. It's also wonderful to be able to keep an airflow around the house, and also inspection. When you look on the other side of your shrubbery and you have this open area, you're going to be able to see whether your sealants are intact, whether a check has opened up, and many, many things that you can inspect without having to trim the bushes all the way back. Now, if you desire and would like to have a larger path, that's fine. We recommend 18 to 24 inches, but if you want to get wider than that, definitely can be able to walk around and look at the house. The other thing you want to do right now is, since you're looking at the full wall, is turn around and look into your other areas, your backyard, the side yards. Look in your landscaping around you. Now, most of the time, these log homes are in beautiful forests. Sometimes trees can fall or branches, or you might have that pile of wood from the original construction or remodeling job that you swore you were going to cut up for firewood and it's still there. Those can harbor not only rodents but pests, bugs, funguses, rotting, and these can actually be homes for like carpenter ants and things. And those can actually go back to your house and infest your house. So definitely clean up those areas in the perimeter around your house. Next, we're going to inspect the gutters and downspouts and look at areas that, especially when they join and they start to drain. If there is a leakage in between, or this is stopped up and it's flowing over, you're going to have a problem with your log ends and dirty and mold and stuff where there's too much water. Also, if you have your dormers, make sure that these are still cleaned out and the water is shedding away from your logs. Now, if that's not possible and you're in an area that has a high snow load and you cannot have gutters and downspouts, then you're going to have to definitely clean your house more often and make sure that any moisture is going to be shed away from the house. Especially when you're down right in here on these dormers, sometimes you're going to have to call a roof company out and maybe put a larger, wider flashing up there to protect that. Any signs of fading on the finish, make a note of that. A lot of times round logs might start to get a little lighter on the top of the logs. Make a note of that in which areas you have the severe. Water staining and exposed logs. Make sure that, again, like I said, the downspouts, you'll get this water staining area. Make a note of that to check what is the problem and take care of the water source. Also, signs of moisture. Now, this might sound the same, but let's say after a rain or you've washed your house, you've noticed there's areas that the logs are getting darker. That means moisture is getting through to the stain into the logs. You may need to put your top coat on and refresh the sealant on the house. Wood next to the ground. Now, it is so tempting to put and stack wood on your porch or against your house where there's an overhang or an eave to protect it from snow and water. Unfortunately, this wood will bring not only rodents but pests, bugs, funguses, and everything onto your house. So don't store anything more than you would use in maybe a day to two. You need to keep the pile of wood at least 18 inches away from the house and 12 inches above the ground. So now that you have your diagram and you have your pictures and you kind of know what areas you want to look at close, let's go up close. First thing you're going to look is if you found some dark areas or even a blonding area, a white area. You want to go up close and check to make sure there's no wood decay. These dark areas may look perfectly fine, but when you start to touch it or poke it with that screwdriver, you're going to notice it's soft and mushy. In a future seminar, I will be going through all the bugs and the rotting funguses and molds and mildews and all of these problems and how to take care of them and repair them and prevent them. So you're going to want to watch for that and poke around. Log ends are very prone to rotting because the log end sucks up 10 times more moisture. And that's not 10%, that's 10 times. The end of your logs are like straws, millions of straws that suck up. So when you find some softness or some rot or a check that possibly is starting some rot in a little inside the log, you not only want to inspect that end, but you want to go all the way down that log and take your hammer and kind of tap and poke and stuff around, because this could have sucked up moisture, and 5 or 6 feet in is where it found rotting funguses and started to rot. So you want to kind of check around the whole log, not just the ends. Green moss and algae. Now, if you have green moss and algae, you have a major water problem. Also, mold and mildew. These are signs that you have a moisture problem. Now, if you cannot repair this moisture problem and you know it's going to just be the design of the house, you can't put a porch around it, and you're just going to have to take care of this one area more often. You're going to want to keep it clean, maybe put the top coats on more often, and maybe put an extra little Stay Clean Mildewcide in the top coat, because these areas are going to be prone to not only the algae and moss, but to mold and mildew. Now, an interesting fact, mold and mildew are exactly the same fungus. It's mold, mildew is just two different words for the exact same fungus. And sometimes it could be a good warning sign, because none of these funguses can grow if the logs are under 20% moisture. So you know one time or another you have moisture. Then you can take care of it. Mold and mildew will also hold moisture onto the logs long enough for rotting funguses to start. So this is something that you need to remove and watch out for. Now, discolored areas, these are some of the most misdiagnosed areas in the industry. For a long time, we thought these areas were molds and mildews and maybe rotting funguses. But finding out through research and development that these are called iron tannates. And in a future seminar, I will be showing you how to get rid of these. But it is not a mold growth, so you will not be able to get it with bleach or anything else. Sawdust and frass means, just means that there is an exiting hole for some powder post or old house borers. I will be going through in detail in a future seminar on how to diagnose and figure out which bug you have, what problems you have, and how to take care of them. Right now, just make a note wherever those are, but the good news is that these are exit holes. And most of the time there's no active infestation, they're just exiting. It's an old infestation that has stayed in your logs for 15 to 20 years in some cases, and only 3 or 4 in others. Upward facing checks. Any check which is the actual crack in the log that is facing upward and more than a quarter inch and greater needs to be sealed. Now, when you inspect these, you're going to want to take your long, thin screwdriver and poke down into those. And if you can feel that the screwdriver goes all the way in, you might have some rotting going on. In a future seminar, we'll be showing you how to fix that rot. Gaps that may allow air or water infiltration. Every house settles, and sometimes you get openings, especially around doors and windows. You might, if an older house, you might take the trim out and reseal around them. We also will be showing you how to do all that. So let's talk about discolored areas so you know how to diagnose them properly. And actually, on all of these pictures, this one is the only one that is mold. And you can tell mold because it's an organic growth. It's a fungus. It has depth to it. It blossoms and it keeps growing. And sooner or later it can grow to it's more of a solid mold. But you can still see a depth to it because it is growing into the mold, into the logs. Okay? These are called iron tannates. Now, this was a little home. Actually a little cabin. It was a sample cabin, a 12 by 12, one of those kits you can just build right next to a river or a lake. And they were having problems with what they thought was a mutant mold. When I went up to inspect it, I found that it was not a mold. It was iron tannates. And the reason why I knew this is everywhere you see a drip mark, there's a staple, a non-galvanized staple that rusted. So this had to be treated in a different way. Now this is the results of bleach being used on the side of a wall to clean it. Especially they thought there was some mold on it, so they're going to clean that off. Once it was stained, the growth, the bleach actually caused the iron tannates and the tannins to come to the surface and discolor. So therefore, this wall would need to be stripped, treated with an oxalic acid, and I'm going to show you that in a future seminar on how to do it, and gotten rid of the iron tannates. This, on the other hand, again, is something that we're not quite sure what caused this, but you can see, even though they're kind of round, blossomy, if you look close, there's no depth to them. It's actually a stain in the wood. And most likely what has happened is this was sanded or washed and used steel wool. Something metal had touched this wood. And do remember, if your siding or your logs, every piece of wood that in your structure has one time or another touched metal. Even if it's a hand hewn, little metal particles can be embedded in the logs. So it's important to clean even new construction and logs. The next webinar we will be doing will be on cleaning. Discolorations also can be deeper into the wood. Now, blue stain is a fungus that usually happens when the logs are high moisture contact, they've just been debarked. There is an ambrosia beetle that can cause it. There's also blue stain can be attached to bacteria and landed on the logs. And it does go deep into the wood, as you can see. So it won't be able to sand it or grind it off because you'd lose quite a bit of the log. There really isn't anything you can do to lighten this or blonde this. You might have to pick a richer, deeper color. And I do have to admit, somebody in Canada said once that there was a new product out. I have not researched that yet. Coffee stains are definitely caused, again, by bleach. This wall was washed with bleach. You can even tell where they rinsed but didn't rinse good enough. And then what it does is the bleach brings out the tannins of the wood out. So since there were no metal particles on this, it didn't bring out the iron tannins, but it did bring the tannins and cause this coffee stain. Gray UV damage, all gray UV damage has to be removed. Basically the gray UV damage, or what a lot of people nowadays are calling patina, it just means it's a layer of dead wood. And if you stain or seal over this gray UV damage, basically you're just trying to attach it to powdery wood, and sooner or later it will fall off. Now we're going to inspect your stain. We never recommend that you walk up to a house and say, okay, we need to blast it off, we need to strip it or anything. Find out where you are in your project. You may want to do it anyway, but at least you know if you put a clear top coat or what can you do. So in this case, this was a dirty wall, and he had not washed it at all for 3 years and was upset that our stain was fading. Well, as you can see, it cleans up beautifully. The stain really did need to be touched up, but a clear top coat needed to be put on. Now understand, a dirty wall like this will actually superheat when sun hits it, the dirt, and then it'll wear off your clear top coat and your finish. So definitely once or twice a year a rinse off with log wash, and that will be covered in cleaning, will do the trick. So let's see, where are you on your stain? Again, when I said after a rain or after you've cleaned a wall, does the logs look darker in areas, or does it bead up, or in our case, if you have our clear coat, sheets off? When you have a product that beads up, most likely there's a lot of waxes in it and it's causing it to bead. For us, the technology is out there to have this water sheet off, not bead up. Bead up means the water stain on your logs. So if you wash the logs off and you noticed areas, a simple coat of a clear top coat for our system is good enough. But let's say you don't know if the product is adhered properly. And old stains maybe, but you never know. So after you've cleaned it, put some masking, let it dry, put some masking tape on and rub it really hard with your fingers. And then rip it off. Wait about 2 to 3 minutes and then rip it off. If most of the stain comes off or a lot of the stain comes off, that means that stain is about ready to come off and should be removed. If you have peeling problems with excessive little tiny fissures and checks, or in this case stained over for gray wood and it peels off, would be a good idea to strip everything off. Going over this and trying to sand this area really does need to be completely removed. So basically, in the future seminars we will be doing, you're going to be able to take an old gray stained log house, trim it up, get it all set, seal the ends of the logs, checks, everything, and your maintenance will go down quite a bit. Knowing what is on the logs and how to remove it will also save you hours of using the wrong products. Be able to remove any stains and go back to the original color, stain it, protect it with the clear top coat, and you're off and running. And then again, once a year, inspect and clean will absolutely make your stains, your clear top coats last longer and will be ease of maintenance. Take care of the small issues before they become larger. So this is the end of this seminar. Thank you very much for attending it. Definitely go to Perma-Chink.com. We have a very wonderful interactive website. You can also print out down here how-to guides. If you click on that, the first thing that comes up is how to inspect, and an inspection list you can print out for yourself. The other thing we provide for you is a free web training. We can customize these trainings just for you. So you will sign up for a day and time that's convenient, and then you will go back, we will contact you, you can send us the pictures, and we can talk about your issues. You can do this as many times as you want. So thank you very much for attending this webinar on inspection, and give us a call or contact us at any time for your Log Home Resource Center. Thank you very much.